All right, shalom, shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rakah, Kudash. All right, double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom, Wakasah, Lahabak Yah, which is peace and mercy to the elect throughout the four quarters. All right, I'm the brother Amar from the branch of GMS Cleveland, coming back at you with another video. Lord willing to be edifying. I just wanted to do a lesson speaking about this. If you don't know, Lord willing, at the end of this video, you will know, but there is a difference between alms and tithes. And when you do a Google search, what is the difference between alms and tithes? You're going to break it down. So it says alms and tithes are both forms of charitable giving, but they differ in their purpose and context, right? Because, like, let's say, at the end of camp, I'm pretty sure, like our camp, at the end of every camp, we give what we consider alms, right? Which every camp, I believe, does it. But you, like I said, if you you can do that, but tithes and alms, like I said, are two different things. Tithes is actually a commandment that you give a tenth of your income or your earnings or something that your production. You know what I'm saying? I think something that you can offer, but it has to be a tenth of it, right? While alms is not necessarily a law. All right, it's not something that is mandatory. Tithes are mandatory. Alms is more so a generous gesture of giving something to the poor or someone of your people in need. All right, like I said, that's a difference. So alms are, like I said, it's not necessarily like I said, a law. Like I said, but tithes are. So at the end of camp, and when brothers say that where your tithes at, that's something that's actually a law and that you actually have to give. Alms is something that you give out of the generosity of your, of your own kindness. So continuing on, right? It says alms are donations given to. You see that? Alms are donations. All right, you're donated, given to relieve poverty and need, while tithes are a specific form of giving. Traditionally, a tenth of one's income, typically to religious institutions, right? It's going to further break it down. So it says alms, right? It says purpose. Alms are given to help those who are less fortunate, adding immediate needs like food, shelter, or clothing, right? Which falls under another word known as charity. All right, and I'm getting to that as well as some scriptures. It says context. Almsgiving is often seen as an act of compassion and charity, motivated by a desire to alleviate suffering. Like I said, you see brothers, catching hell. Hell, you can even give alms to a person that's not even in the camp, or say you see a homeless Jake and you want to give them alms. And according to what I'm going into, the definition of it, alms is, like I said, it's a generous gesture that you show by giving money, or it can be food, clothing, etc., etc. So, like I said, it don't necessarily be a person in the truth. You see a woman, Israelite woman that's messed up or down and out, and you want to help, you give her alms. All right. So it says context. Examples: donating to a food bank, supporting a homeless shelter, or providing financial assistance to someone in need. So it says tithes. Jumping down. Purpose: tithes are a specific form of giving, traditionally to a tenth of one's income or produce. It says given to support religious institutions or their leaders. Like I said, it goes into like what the church. All right, and not how these people do nowadays, man. Like they totally hijacked the scriptures and pretty much they're using the scriptures like tithing or tying to support their own bellies. All right, even though, like I said, what they're doing, it is scriptural. Don't get me wrong, but how they're going about doing it is wicked. All right, and I'm not going to break all that down. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Because, like I said, they can Israelite, all right, that's teaching the truth and that's In ancient world, that was a priest, high priest. They would teach, or a Levite. They would teach and do the services, and then what you would have to give a tenth of that to them, and then they in turn give to the church. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be it'll be for support of the ministry, and then they'll use that to help the poor, the widow, the fatherless, the stranger. So how they go about doing it now, a lot of these fake preachers and priests and stuff like that, leaders, they just use that to, like I said, support their own belly, getting a better living circumstances, so forth and so on. Which the scriptures teach against that as well. You just can't go about heaping things up unto yourself, and this, that, and the third, man. Anyway, so it says context: tithing has a historical and religious context. All things seen as an obligation or a way to support religious organization and their work. Examples: giving a tenth of one's earnings to a church or religious organization. You see, Old Testament versus New Testament. In the Old Testament, tithing was a specific commandment, while the New Testament, the focus shifts to giving based on a cheerful and giving heart, with no set per percentage prescribed, usually according to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Burlington, which they're right on that. And so it says, in essence, alms are a broader concept of charitable giving to the poor, while tithes are a specific form of giving offered to religious institutions, traditionally a tenth of one's income. So when you get these scriptures, and matter of fact, let me go a little further. So when you just do a simple Google search, right? I mean, blue letter. I'm gonna get this scripture too. So it's the book of Leviticus, chapter 27 and 30. So this is pretty much what ties scripture on ties. So it says, all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed or of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's, is holy unto the Lord. It says that if a man will add or redeem all of his tithes, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, or even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. So when you look up what a tenth is, right? I mean, a tithe. It's going to say my arash. It says a tenth, right? Especially a tithe means tenth part. Tithing, so tithe means tenth. If you don't know it, tenth part. It says a tenth part tithe payment of a tenth part. So, for example, if you get paid $100, you will give what, a tenth of that, or 10% of 100. Let's do some math, all right? It should be 10. There you go. It's just some simple math. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't tripping. It says, so yeah, a tenth. You made $100, and you, according to the scriptures, you get, if you made $100, you would get what, a tenth of that, which a tenth of that would be $10, man. All right, but some brothers have it a little set up different. You might, you can give. Well, no, the tithe is 10%. It's point blank period. But alms, like I said, you can give whatever. So with all that being said, let me get this other scripture just concerning the tithing. This is Deuteronomy 14 and 22. Says, thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed. It says that the field bringeth forth year by year, and thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, because you're supposed to put that away, right? It says to place, as he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn and of thy wine and of thy oil and the fat firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always, if the way be too far from thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far for thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money of thy hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. It says, right, so you take a tenth of that, like your like you're talking about your produce, your wine, your fruits and vegetables, and cattle and stuff like that, and then you can exchange those things for money, all right, and then you would give that to what? The Levites, the priest, the high priest. So it says, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth, and thou shalt and thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice thou and thy household, and the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, nor that says, for he have no part nor inheritance with thee. And at the end of the 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all that tithe thy increase to the same year, and shalt lay it up within the gates. It says, in the Levite, because he have no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all thy work of thy hand which thou doest. So the reason why you tithe is for this purpose, mainly for the 29th verse. It's for what? The Levi, because he didn't have no part nor inheritance with him, with the rest of the tribes. They, remember, Levi was separated to do the services, service of the temple and all these other things. All right, where they had to cater to the rest of the tribes. All right, remember what Levi means? Lawyer, bound unto me. You know what I'm saying? Or joined unto me. They were joined unto the Lord to, like I said, to sacrifice their life to do what? The work. All right. So when you give in tithes, you might have a question like, well, why am I giving tithes? You give a tenth part of your earnings or your income, all right, or your produce or what you have, so it can be what ministered to the church, which the church makes up the Israelites, all right, or the Israelites make up the church, all right, and then that tenth of each person will be used in support of what the ones that just named the 29th verse. And the Levite, because he have no part, no inheritance with thee, and the stranger, all right, the ones of our people that wasn't born in Jerusalem or in the land, all right, throughout Israel, he probably was born wherever, in Rome or Italy, or he was born on the outskirts, and he didn't have, like I said, no family there, so he's struggling, so he used that money to support him or her. It says, and the fatherless, right, and the widow, which are within thy gates, it shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thy hand which thou doest, man. So that's the importance of the tithes, man, and the reason for it. All right, and that's why we give tithes, man. All right, that's the reason why you give tithes. All right, let me see where else do I want to go with this, man. Like I said, that's the law. All right. Oh yeah, I did want to get this information. Let's see. With some more information I had on this. I don't know what the hell I did with it, but it was some. I had some more information, man. I don't know what happened to it, man, but so I was gonna go into it a little further about tithes. Man. Yeah, well, let me just I don't know what I did with it, man, but it was some real good information. I think this might be it. Yep. The water y'all bashing me on shot. So yeah. So this is some information. All right. It says Smith's Bible Dictionary, tithe or tenth. It says the proportion of proportion of property devoted to religious uses, It says from very early times. Instances of the use of tithes are found prior to the appointment of the Levitical tithes under the law. In Bible history, the two prominent instances are it gives Abram representing the tenth of all his property, or rather of the spoils of his victory, to Melchizedek, right? And this is even before book the law came about. It was more so oral, you know what I'm saying? But he still understood and knew that he was supposed to give a tenth of that, because the Lord put it in our spirit, put in Israelites, our people's spirits, even before the law of Moses came about, which is actually the law of Yahweh Shem Shai. Anyway, it says Jacob, after his vision at Luz, devoting a tenth of all his property to Yahweh in case he should return home in safety. Genesis 28:22. This is the first enactment of the law in respects of tithe is the declaration that the tenth of all produce, as well as flocks and cattle, belongs to Yahweh and must be offered to him. That the tithe was to be paid in kind, or if redeemed with an addition of 1/10 is to its value. Leviticus 27:30 and 30 through 33, which I just read. This tenth is ordered to be assigned to the Levites as the reward of their service, and is ordered further that they are themselves to dedicate to the Lord a tenth of these receipts, which is to be devoted to the maintenance of the high priest. You see that? This is the information I was just speaking about. Numbers 18:21 to 28. This legislation is modified or extended in the book of Deuteronomy, i.e. from 38 to 40 years later, commands are given to the people. And some more information right here. It says to bring their tithes together with their votive and other offerings and first fruits. It says to the chosen center of worship, the metropolis, they are to be eaten. It says a festive celebration and company with their children, their servants and the Levites. Deuteronomy 12:5 through 18. All the produce of the soil was to be tithed and these tithes with the firstlings of the flock and herd were to be eaten in the metropolis. It says, but in case of distance, permission is given to convert the produce into money, which is to be taken to the appointed place, and there laid out in the purchase of food for a festal celebration, in which the Levite is by special command to be included. Deuteronomy 14:22 to 27, which I read. It says, then follows the direction that at the end of 3 years, all the tithe of that year is to be gathered and laid up within the gates. It says, and that the festival is to be held, of which the stranger, the fathers, and the widow together with the Levite are to partake. All right, and there are signs of this in the Apocrypha, which our forefathers displayed as well, like in the book of Maccabees. All right, when during the time of Heliodorus, when he tried to go in and get that money out the temple, and the angel roughed his ass up. All right, and then you had Tobit. He had signs of him showcasing, giving alms and tithes. It says, lastly, it is ordered that after taking the tithe, and each third year, which is the year of tithing, and it says an exculpatory declaration is to be made by every Israelite that he has done his best to fulfill the divine command. From all this we gather. And then it gives us a little bit more. It says that 1/10 of the whole produce of the soil was to be assigned for the maintenance of the Levites. That out of this the Levites were to dedicate a tenth to Yahweh for the use of the high priest, and that a tithe, and all probability a second tithe, was to be applied to festival purposes, as to that in every third year, either this festival tithe or a third tenth was to be eaten in company with the poor and the Levites. These tithes in early times took the place of our modern taxes, as well as of gifts for the support of religious institution, man. So yeah, that was a lot, man, but it was definitely something I was thought about bringing out. And then we go into what alms are. It says charitable relief of the poor, especially as the religious duty, also that which is given to relieve the poor or needy. All right. So then you have charity, benevolence for the poor. It also says charity, mercy, compassion, alms. So alms, charity is interchangeable, whereas tithes is more, or tithing is more of a commandment. Let me get this last scripture. There's a lot of scriptures on alms. I just want to get this one. 1 Peter 4, verse 8. It says, and above all things have fervent charity among yourself, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins, man. So that charity is alms. Alms is something that you give out of the kindness of your heart and mercy and compassion towards the poor of your people, because you realize the situation that they're in, whether they need money or clothing, food, so forth and so on. Whereas alms is more of a command. It's a commandment that you have to give a tenth of your income or your product or your produce. And I praise edifying with that. I don't give all praise and glory to you. How about Shem Shah Shalom.